Let's recap where we left off. The Keyblade War was beginning to ramp up in the real world. Wielders were fighting in the streets, and even the foretellers had begun to openly clash. Master Ava gathered all her dandelions and trained them on how to enter a dream reality where they would be safe from the destruction and carnage that the war would bring. She then disappeared to search for the Master of Masters fruitlessly, instead finding Master Luxu. Our character and Skald were searching for Ava, but instead found Master Gula, who told us some secrets from the Book of Prophecies. Strelitzia was also searching for us, as she wanted to make sure we joined the Dandelions before the war began. Her Chirithy ran to her and told her it had just seen us entering the storehouse. As Master Ava lashed out at Luxu, the shockwave rang the bell on the clock tower, signaling that the war had finally arrived. We left the storehouse, and Skald tried one last time to convince us to come with her and all the other Dandelions as they escaped into the dream. We seemed convinced, but the Dark Chirithy stopped us, and instead we battled with it. Strelitzia entered the house that we had just left, but found no one inside. As she turned to leave, she was struck down, and her rulebook was stolen. Days later, we fought in the Keyblade War and would have perished had it not been for Skald and Ephema, who took us into the dream with them. All the other Dandelions that trained with Master Ava believed that we were ready for when the Keyblade War would finally arrive. Then, the bells rang, and it just didn't. Our lives continued as normal. This is of course a lie. The memories of the Dandelion's actual escape, and in our case, the war itself, have been overwritten by false memories of fun adventures with friends. We are still expected to collect Lux in this dream. However, we can no longer travel to the illusionary worlds we did before. We now travel to data replicas of those worlds, and it is in the data version of Enchanted Dominion that Maleficent finds herself trapped. Lauriam has been searching for Strelitzia, his younger sister. He knows that she was supposed to have joined the Dandelions, but has been unable to find her since the war began and they all escaped. However, he has cleverly realized that each time the Dandelions enter a data world, they must first be converted to data themselves, much like Roxas was when he entered the data Twilight Town. So therefore, there should be a data backup of all the Dandelions hidden within the archives. He discussed this idea with Ephema, which coincidentally gave Ephema a solution to a problem that he himself had been facing. The instructions left to the new Union leaders in their rulebooks stated that they were to run matches between Keyblade wielders, an idea that greatly bothered Ephema. What with the ugly clashing of wielders in the streets over Lux, not to mention the countless lives lost in the Keyblade War itself, it seemed rather uncouth to allow wielders to actually duel with each other. A few days later, Ephema called a meeting of the new Union leaders to discuss what to do. Brain seemed very inconvenienced by the whole thing, as he wished to get back to his reading. He let the group know that Lauriam wouldn't be attending, but had left instructions that whatever the five voted on, his vote would align with Ephema's. Lauriam was out searching for answers, and sought them from one of Strelitzia's former party members, Elrena. You will likely recognize Elrena as the human personification of Larxene, the 12th member of Organization 13. Lauriam asked Elrena what she knew about Strelitzia, but due to Strelitzia's very shy and solitary nature, the two never really spoke much, only discussing things as they pertain to their missions. It seems Lauriam joined the Dandelions first, and had then been trying to convince Strelitzia to join as well, but since then he hasn't seen her at all. Elrena saw her infrequently, and whenever she did, it seems Strelitzia was always waiting for someone. The last time Elrena saw her was at that time that Master Ava gave the speech at the fountain, preparing the Dandelions for their training. But again, because of the memory wipe, Elrena believes nothing happened after that the war simply never took place. Lauriam begins to suspect that if the last place Strelitzia was seen was right before the war, then perhaps she ended up fighting in it after all. Elrena is sorry that she can't be of any further help, but summons her Chirithy, as maybe it can. Elrena's Chirithy and Strelitzia's were evidently good friends, which I suppose makes sense as they were both aligned with players in the same union and party. Lauriam asks the last time it saw Strelitzia's Chirithy, which was around the time that it and Strelitzia were searching for some mystery person, someone she was desperate to invite into the Dandelions, even though she didn't know their name. This was right before the clock tower's bell rang. Elrena's and Strelitzia's Chirithys were talking when they witnessed this mystery person and Skald entering the storeroom. Upon seeing this, Strelitzia's Chirithy ran back to her to let her know that it had found their target. Hearing that Skald was involved, Lauriam thanks Elrena and her Chirithy and takes off, leaving Elrena to investigate the storeroom. Her Chirithy remarks that she doesn't usually care about other people, so it seems like searching for a missing person is very out of character for Elrena. Back at the Union leaders' meeting, Ephemer has been hearing out his comrades' point of view. They all produce their rulebooks, but when Ephemer brings up that the subject of the meeting is discussing the wielders fighting amongst each other, Ven seems very surprised to hear the news, almost like he hasn't actually read his book. He says he simply misunderstood, and the meeting continues. Brain seems indifferent to the idea, feeling that it is according to the rules they were instructed to follow, and hey, it might be a fun way to let off steam. Ven and Skald are strongly against it. Skald remembers all too well the grim reality of Keyblade wielders clashing in the streets. So with Brain for and Skald and Ven against, the decision lies with Ephemer, who holds his and Laurium's votes, and shocks the room by agreeing to follow the rules, with a twist. Ephemer remembers what Laurium had told him earlier, that data backups of every wielder should exist to allow travel to the data worlds, and Ephemer will use those data backups as a stand-in so that the wielders will not physically be fighting each other, but would still satisfy the condition of holding matches between the wielders. The group agrees that this is a good solution, and Ephemer thanks Laurium for giving him the idea, explaining to the group that he is looking for Strelitzia. Not long after, Laurium returns, insisting to speak to Skald. He presumably questions her about her knowledge of Strelitzia's whereabouts, which Skald unfortunately knows nothing about. Laurium is very concerned that Strelitzia followed her mystery person right into the Keyblade War. Brain pipes up and tries to piece together some of the details. If Strelitzia was looking for a mystery person right before the bell rang, then they couldn't have been a member of the Dandelions at that time, but Strelitzia herself must have been. Brain finds it weird that Strelitzia was so insistent on having a mystery person join the Dandelions, when according to Laurium, she was still unsure about the decision herself. All this talking has reminded Ephemer of someone very quiet who didn't join the Dandelions. Skald realizes as well that Laurium is searching for us. Thank you again to Goldpanner and the team at Kingdom Hearts Insider for providing these translations within hours of the update coming out in Japan. At the current rate that the official translations are coming out, the global version will not see this batch of quests until May and June of 2019, something which I find utterly inexcusable. How they can continue to ignore their fans while leaving their community teams to take the fall for their horrendous decisions is completely beyond me. Also a huge shout out to Everglow for doing a similarly excellent job in providing translations, and if you have never watched his Timeline series, you are missing out. It is perhaps the ultimate love letter to the Kingdom Hearts franchise, and the most comprehensive way of catching up with the series before Kingdom Hearts 3 launches. This update raises several questions. I'm personally very curious as to the nature of the data worlds, and have recently begun to wonder if in fact there can be multiple copies of a data world, or perhaps they sort of permeate through time. What I'm saying is, if we are exploring a data Agrabah, Wonderland, Olympus Coliseum, etc. from the dreaming Daybreak Town, is it possible that we are in fact exploring the same data worlds that Data Sora explores in Kingdom Hearts Coded? Also, Elrena's very sweet and sincere personality is a little puzzling given what we know of Larxene. Laurium is also shown to be a very caring older brother, a far cry from the cold and manipulative nobody he will one day be. Will something terrible happen to these two, causing them to become far more villainous? Elrena's Chirithy does tease that Elrena usually doesn't care about other people, which perhaps gives a clue to the far colder, and even at times sadistic nature of Larxene. Speaking of which, Elrena has a Chirithy. Does that confirm her to be a full-fledged Keyblade wielder? I hypothesized in my last story video that perhaps Laurium was hiding the fact that he couldn't wield one from his fellow Union leaders, and to support that theory we still haven't seen his Chirithy. Does he own one? And if so, would it not be any help in searching for Strelitzia? I am very curious to see how the January update plays out, given that its release should be a very short time before Kingdom Hearts 3 itself is finally released. Will Laurium confront our character? Will we finally see the new world that has been teased for months? Perhaps. Will we learn how Laurium, Elrena and Ven found themselves several years in the future? Will we learn about the Black Box, Lushu, and the Master of Masters? I actually don't think so. I feel like Kingdom Hearts 3 will actually be the one to ask a lot of questions that only Union Cross can answer. But we can speculate another time. I hope you would join me for further Union Cross updates, where I continue to explain the plot of Union Cross. Let me know what you think will happen next, and what you'd like to see in future installments. Thanks for watching. All the best, and goodbye for now.